Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Everyone's muted, so feel free to unmute yourselves for now, and then at some point we will be muting people as well. I will just say that we are going live onto Facebook, Rich Mix Facebook. So if you're happy with your face on Facebook Live, excellent, do nothing. If you prefer not to have your face on Facebook Live, maybe turn off your camera, but we do love seeing people. So really great of you to join us.
Yeah, it's nice to see all of you here, kind of here, around the Talkaoke table.
I feel like everybody's got their own Talkaoke table these days.
Yeah, or it's one big Talkaoke table. One big table that everyone's around. We are still dealing with the technology, so slowly we're getting there. But it's nice to see you here and around. Welcome. We're going to probably start in a couple of minutes. I'll just say again, I've just said it, but people are just kind of pouring in the door, so to speak. We are going to go live on Facebook kind of now, I think. So if you don't want to be on Facebook, just stop your video screen. We still want everyone to contribute to the conversation. There's going to be a lot of people joining us today, so I'm going to try my best to get around to speaking to everybody. And I really would encourage every single person to join in the conversation. However, we're not going to be able to capture every single comment. So I would encourage you as well to use the chat channel. I don't know how familiar people are with Zoom, but if you go to the bottom of your screen and click on chat, you'll see a chat channel. There's not really much in there yet. Hello, people. So do use the chat channel as well. And the other thing to say is we're going to be encouraging people to use the raising the hand function as well. So if you're not familiar with that, you just go to the participants list, and just under the participants, you'll see a little hand just to practice raising your hand. So, I mean, if everyone wants just to have a quick go at that now, just to see how you're getting on with that.
I feel like everyone is just such a Zoom pro these days.
We've all been there. We've all done that. Now, this is not going to be. Selma's got the raised hand. Kieran's got a raised hand, and is it?
Chris has got a raised hand. Very
Carola,
good.
Emma. We've got Kane. We've got. Is it Noemi? Is that right? I'm gonna have to unmute you, Noemi, just to get your pronunciation right. Go on. Say again.
That's Noemi. Don't worry about it too much.
Noemi.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Anyone stuck with the raised hand function? Oh, it seems to be. I'm gonna just. We've got some nice backdrops as well.
It's all going on. So if everybody's muted, great. We will probably keep people muted as a kind of blanket approach, and then if you want to say something, we're gonna go to the raised hand because I think we're expecting, like Mikey said, a lot of people. So just to kind of keep a bit of a flow and a bit of order, we will follow the raised hand. But remember, we are going live to Facebook on the Rich Mix channels. So if you're happy with your face going all over Facebook, excellent, do nothing, just carry on. If you're not so happy, maybe just turn off your camera. So you don't have to worry about that. We are also going live on Twitter, or we will be live tweeting on Twitter, because where else? And we'll be capturing some of the themes and some of the questions that will come up. I'm sure there's going to be loads of things coming up. And then you can look back on those if you want to carry on the conversation further, because we do believe that this is just a starting point. And the conversation will continue on social media, and that includes Twitter and Facebook, and also Instagram if you're into that kind of stuff. We'll be posing some questions on our Instagram, and again, you can carry on the conversation there. But thank you so much for joining us live on Zoom. And yeah, spending the next 2 hours or however long you can with us. We are at the moment admitting people, and I think we're going to do that for a couple of more minutes. We're expecting a few more people. And if you, I think everyone's muted at the moment, which is great. If you have any technical questions, now is the time to ask. Make use of the Zoom chat. And if you're not sure where the Zoom chat is, if you go to the bottom of your screen,
yeah,
it will be just there, one of the options.
Bottom.
Sometimes as the conversation is going live, people are talking, you may want to kind of jot your thoughts down or questions down in the chat. We will do our best to bring those back to the table, and we'll attempt the same with the comments on Facebook and Twitter. So just as well, we can multitask so well. Or we'll find out, actually. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for this very unusual and very exciting Talkaoke.
Yeah. I mean, maybe now we've got a few people in the door, we should just kick this off. And what I'm going to do very quickly is just say welcome, everybody, and just not everyone may be familiar with the Talkaoke format, and this is not quite the Talkaoke format, because normally we've got a whole bunch of people around the table, a bit like this, and it's a very kind of it's a talk show, but it's a really great way of getting to know people and getting people in an imaginative, creative kind of conversation. Talkaoke began just where Rich Mix is, actually in Brick Lane in the Vibe Bar in 1997. It's something that I've been doing for 23 years now. It's only the COVID crisis that's brought the whole thing online, because I really like people and like them to be here in my space. So we're trying our best to get that same feel of everyone being in the same space online. We've got a long history with Rich Mix, and in fact, the Rich Mix building used to be my studio before it was Rich Mix in the year 2000. So a long history with Tower Hamlets, with Rich Mix, and with the area. But this is kind of a, yeah. And so probably a lot of you have seen Talkaoke, and I think I'm not going to go into like a whole life story, but just to say that Talkaoke was invented for a specific reason, and the reason for it was to kind of give the participants the power in the talk show. So consequently, we have no set agenda, we have no hierarchy, and we just try and get a flow of conversation going. And we'll try and explore different elements of our main theme today, which is how can cultural organizations and other local organizations help the community? And that's the main theme. That's a sort of almost a starting point of a question, but we'll go in lots of different directions. We haven't really got time to introduce everybody, but I guess you've got your name there on your Zoom window. So what we're going to do is really just get the conversation going. Just because a whole load of more people have come through the door, I'm just going to say again, we are going live to Facebook on Rich Mix's Facebook page, and you can also watch the stream there. But if you want to participate and say something, which I'd very much encourage you to do, stay on the Zoom. If you don't want your face to be on Facebook, then just stop your video. We've got a couple of people that are not showing the video, but please, if you've not got your video on, do use the raise hand function, because we won't be able to see you if you want to make a point. All right, let's get on with the show. I've kind of been through that. I feel like I've done it a few times now. Welcome, everybody. Hello. It's very exciting. Has anybody got anything they want to kick this off with? Bearing in mind what I've just said, bearing in mind the strange and unexpected circumstances of our meeting. Has anyone got anything, any thoughts, comments, observations, suggestions, ideas, anything at all they want to kick us off with? Who's going to start us off? Raise your hand. Let's have a virtual raised hand from someone.
Could be a real one. It's always this exciting moment at the very beginning where everyone's just too nervous to start. I've got nothing to say. But don't be shy.
Oh, I saw a raised hand and it went down kind of. Oh, here we go. Kane has got something to say. Go on, Kane. Let me, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
I guess what I'm thinking about is, like, to what extent, I mean, I think a lot of organizations have been really, really good in terms of sort of putting a digital program online, like broadcasting, you know, shows that they maybe have recorded in the past, setting up new commissioning funds for digital work. And I guess it's to what extent, like, you know, organizations and venues normally will also be delivering work with some of the sort of, I guess, most isolated groups and individuals normally through their engagement programs. And I'd just be really interested to get a sense from the room to what extent, like, people have been able to replicate those projects online, or even if it is possible.
Okay, Kane, when you say the most isolated groups, have you got particular groups in mind? Can you be a bit more specific?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, you know, the elderly, people in care homes, people with disabilities, yeah, people with underlying health issues. You know, I guess those groups where maybe,
yeah,
whilst there's a sense at least that there may be some restrictions that will be lifted for some of the general population quite soon, those other groups where it's maybe a little bit more open-ended about, you know, how long they'll be isolated for, and perhaps, you know, potentially those groups that maybe have less access to things like computers and the internet, you know, the homeless population, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a question for us at the People Speak, because we like to go out there on the street and just get conversations with whoever is out there on the street, but you will get a narrowing of participants in a situation like this, because not everyone will use Zoom, not everyone is familiar with streaming, or how do we actually get like how do we get those people that are not necessarily familiar with this online world involved? How do we actually still stay connected with them? Any thoughts, any ideas from people out there around the table? It's a tough question. And I just want to say to those people on Facebook as well, we want to hear from you as well, and on the Twitter stream.
We've got a hand up from...
Oh yeah, we've got a hand up. Is it Carola?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's been fascinating over the last you know, as terrible as this crisis is, that there are, you know, the creatives and cultural actors have really come to the fore, I would say. And, you know, there's a sort of notion of, if, you know, what keeps us sane is actually creativity and culture in these crises. And for us, it was also this notion of how do we keep that actually going even after we've maybe gone past the crisis. And certainly in the groups that I've been involved in, there have been fabulous examples of people mentioning that they've partnered up with services who go into homes, so that there are arts and culture kits that they brought into the homes. There are clay projects where in Stoke-on-Trent they give out a packet with clay and all sorts of little how-to-do kits. So I think people have been amazingly creative of reaching across boundaries and not just relying on the online world.
Okay, I mean, that's certainly not been us. We have been just relying on the online world, but you know, send out the clay. Send out art kits. Has anyone, I'm going to turn the question around. Has anyone else had that same problem and had the same struggle of like, oh, am I just connecting with online people and I'm I'm kind of stuck, I'm struggling. Is anyone feeling that same problem? We've got Lara down there. There is also, I'm going to come to you, Lara, but I just want to say, just because there's so many of you in the room, try to use the raised hand function, which is down the bottom of your screen. If you click on participants, you'll see a little hand. But Lara, let me come to you.
Yeah, we, well, obviously, I have a theatre company called Legal Aliens, first of all,
Yeah.
and apart from usual stuff like producing shows, we also run workshops for migrants and refugees in Tottenham every week.
Right.
The night, and we started doing them online. But yes, what we noticed is like these, let's say, more established migrants kind of.
Yeah.
So we have all the European migrants joining, basically, and some people who are younger and are more kind of advanced in terms of technology, and also who can afford the technology.
Yeah.
But like the people like refugees or people who really have like jobs whereby they struggle with like paying for Wi-Fi, or even their accommodation, or even language-wise, I find that online, anyone who struggles with English finds it much harder.
Right.
So when I ran a session yesterday, and I realized that some people were almost withdrawing because they found it harder to follow, a Zoom call and to express themselves in English. While when you are in the room, there's so much else that goes on in terms of physicality, and then sometimes in the group we have some relating for each other, and it becomes incredibly complicated on Zoom. The only thing that I'm thinking is like we have this kind of social kind of club center in Tottenham where we run the workshops, and they have an inner courtyard, and I wonder whether in the future maybe we'll be able, if the weather is nice and warm, to maybe run the workshops outdoors. And that's
So in a way, it's like, it's not just necessarily about, let's say, doing things online, but working out ways to actually, use spaces. Could we actually use like an open space and just have people socially distanced apart? But we also want to sort of pick up on this thing about the richness of like interaction when you are in a room and you've got so many different cues, and it is so much less rich, even with the Zoom where you've got face and voice, but you don't have all those other things. And there's so many barriers actually that you mentioned, because you're talking about the language barrier. There's also, I think, this question of if I'm fair, is it fair to say a kind of confidence thing as well, to be on the Zoom rather than just be in a room? So there's so many, how do we overcome these barriers? How do we think differently? There's, in a way, two different strands here, thinking differently about not going online, or how do we get that online scenario as rich as possible? It's up to you where you want to take this. Kieran, you've got your hand up. Let me unmute you, hang on. Yep. Kieran?
Here we go. Well, I was just thinking that I saw a yoga class. I know you're not meant to be doing it, but people are doing it in East London. A yoga class in one of the parks.
Right.
And that seemed like a good way around the whole social distancing thing. Everyone was obviously 3 meters apart.
Yeah.
I mean, I work for a charity, and we deal with mainly what we call marginalised people. And the truth is, we can't really get a hold of them. We can't even get them on the phone, never mind online. And it's going to be very difficult because they've got underlying health conditions. So they're probably going to be the last people to come back in terms of the government guidelines.
So you're concerned about them, but you're not really sure how to get hold of these people. Yeah,
it's not enough to post online that you can do your therapy session via Zoom, because like the lady just said, like Lara just said, that they don't necessarily have the technology or the language. So we're going to have to reinvent it a little bit. But I think using parks and doing activities in parks and being allowed to do that might be quite an important thing.
So there's still, in a way, you're answering both threads here. It's like how to get around the online thing, but also the concern about the marginalized people that we're just not getting to. I want to just come to Laura, that I see you've got your hand up. Did you want to say something, Laura?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the space. Yes, I wanted to come to that online-offline divide from our perspective and maybe share what has been happening. I'm a theatre maker and cultural activist. I work at the With One Voice International Arts and Homelessness Movement.
Yeah.
So we work kind of internationally at the intersection between the arts and homelessness, and we support both arts organizations and homelessness organizations, and obviously arts and homelessness projects. And as you can imagine, COVID has had a huge impact on homelessness communities around the world. Specifically in the UK, we're seeing a lot of people being moved into emergency and temporary accommodation, and where isolation becomes even worse for a lot of people, and where boredom becomes even worse. And there's issues with people not being able to stay where they are, and therefore being kicked out of hostels and stuff. So what we've been thinking about is for the offline part of the discussion today, about yes, how do we reach people, and how do we make sure that what is on offer is also co-produced and is what people need and want, rather than, again, kind of being these artists that just parachute in people's spaces, even just mental spaces, with stuff that are perhaps not useful or helpful. So we've been working with the Homelessness Task Force, that are set up locally, to be able to get in touch with people and maybe, add some art and creativity in their food parcels, or kind of like essential items. So that ranges from Sudokus to art packs.
So it's not just a food parcel, it's an art parcel as well as a food parcel.
Yeah, exactly. So people can do something, can be entertained and just pass the time, as everyone can appreciate. Everyone needs that. But also start a conversation with people. Another offline project that we've gathered best practice around and issued a guidance is about mobile libraries in those emergency accommodations. Where with all the safety involved, the fact of passing from room to room and asking about people's books that they might want to read starts a conversation, and therefore a human contact again. And one particular practice around the online capabilities of people comes from Crisis. So our partners at Crisis are doing something called a digital audit, which might seem really simple, but I wanted to share it. And it's about looking at the people that they work with, and doing the phone calls, and understanding where they are and understanding their digital capacity. Is that only a phone? Is that a laptop? Is that a tablet? And then looking at maybe reallocating resources to provide people with the hardware in order for them to stay connected.
Okay, so get the hardware to them. Have you got a link for that, Laura, that you could post into the chat so we can have a look at that?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can do that, it'd be great. I'm just because there's so many people now with their hands up. Just want to go to Eleanor, because you've had your hand up the longest. What was your point? Oops, go on.
So I work for Spotlight Youth Arts, which is over in Poplar, and I run the theatre program there. And we had some really interesting findings from an intensive week that we ran 2 weeks ago with a sort of quite a hard to reach, a group of young people who would be considered hard to reach, and certainly had been really hard to reach before COVID. And actually we found that because people were now in their homes and actually really looking for stuff to do, a lot of the young people that we'd struggled to engage before and would never have participated were then in. And then actually Zoom as a medium, although it had many barriers, it also in many ways we felt that the work that we then created, because the young people were creating the work in their homes and in spaces that they felt comfortable, was really candid and really authentic, and actually allowed us to kind of reach a level of intimacy that I don't think we would have been in a room together.
So in a way, there are some advantages of this situation in that you've got the attention, you've got a kind of depth that people can go to in their own space.
Yeah, and it definitely, I'd much obviously would rather run like a thing in face to face, but it was very interesting to work out that actually moving forward we might actually be stronger as a group after this than we were before, and actually have produced work that we couldn't have done otherwise.
And but how did you connect with these people? Was it by phone? Was it online?
So the project had already been running for about 6 months, so we have used the networks that we'd already developed through that recruitment process, and that was through kind of either contacting the young people themselves, sort of their like youth workers that they knew, or sometimes in some cases like their social workers or their teachers, and sort of using those networks that we already had to then. And also we've been putting a lot of work on our social medias and stuff like that. Okay,
so what I'm going to take from that, I mean, there's 2 points there. Is like you've got your pre-existing network, but also the change of circumstances can actually bring some other things to light or bring a different perspective. And, you know, maybe we can work with that some more. Gina, you've had your hand up for a long time. Can I come to you?
Yeah. Yes.
Oops, hang on, you just muted yourself there. I think we're just unmuting each other. Gina?
Yes, hello. This is Gina from the Vienna Museum of Childhood. I wanted to add another positive dimension. I was in a big Zoom meeting, and there were a lot of participants outside London, and they were saying that they would never have had the resources, either the time or the money, to come to 1 or 2 hours events in London. And this lockdown has given more equity in what people can do in big cities and in the regions. So I just wanted to share that positivity.
Okay, so in a way, there's some other, in a way as well, because this is a local Tower Hamlets based thing, but we've got people from all around the world. So it's this weird global, local kind of mixture of like being inside people's houses, but being inside people's houses all around the world. So it is, I can certainly relate to that. Definitely. We've got this, there are some positives here. We can go deeper, in a way more intimate, but we can also reach out further to people. If only we could find those people and, you know, make sure that we're not excluding those that can't easily get online. These are some of the questions. There's also some a lot of stuff coming through in the chat. We're going to come to that in a second, but let me go to Joanne, because you've had your hand up for a while. Oops, yeah.
Hello, I work for Rich Mix, but I used to work for a company in Toronto, Canada, called Canadian Stage, and they're a theatre company with 2 venues. And one thing I thought was really interesting is seeing kind of collaborations strengthen, because there's this amazing kind of community arts group right in their neighborhood, and it's a really socially mixed neighborhood, really high density. And this group is called the Jamie Esplanade, Jamii, and the street's called the Esplanade. And they've been doing these itinerant performances. So they've been going around with a bike and a trailer behind it and having a different schedule, lots of stuff for kids, because there's lots of young families there. But Canadian Stage, I saw, has been partnering with them and supporting them. I thought, okay, that's a good thing. Maybe they don't have as much of a tie with their, you know, the local people on their street who don't necessarily come to the theater. But it's kind of neat because they're able to kind of tie together their networks a bit. And then that's been picked up a lot on social media and local news, because it's just this lovely thing of everyone coming to their balconies to watch the, you know, the itinerant performance. It's good. I was thinking about that. If we have trouble reaching people, maybe in our local areas, maybe there's a community group, right, that's already doing that good work that you can just.
Is it like just because of their particular geography that they can do that? And is there situations maybe in Tower Hamlets where we've got similar geography?
Yeah, it definitely reminds me quite similarly. Normally this group, Jamie Esplanade, does stuff in parks or community centers or schools. So, you know, they're already kind of on the ground a lot. And so all they've done to change that is go out onto the street with their bike. So, I mean, it's really simple, but I just thought it was great to see the kind of more theater company joining up.
I mean, does it actually turn the street or the park into a theatre? this crisis. Once again, Joanne, if you can just throw in the link for that, just so we use in the chat. There's quite a lot coming through in the chat. Maybe Margot, you've been monitoring the chat, and Will, I think you've been monitoring the Facebook. Anything come through on those channels?
Well, we've got a point from Carola.
Yeah.
Saying, I feel there is also a new kind of learning to be created within a family setting, specifically with kids, whereas before this creative engagement was focused on being creative within schools. So it's kind of moving the space where creativity can take place into home. And I think one of the things that I keep seeing is how working from home and having children is impacting various creatives and other people. And yeah, I wish we could just be creative all day, every day, with our kids or without.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's the aspect of living your life and earning money from home as well. So that's what I got from the chat. Will, do we have anything from Facebook?
A little bit quieter on Facebook at the moment, but if people are watching, so if you want to comment, please do, and we'll get it out to people as quick as possible.
All right, let's go to Kane. You've had your hand up for ages. Go on.
Yeah, it was just it's just pulling on a previous point. I'm sort of really, I guess, taken by the idea of how we can kind of hijack other systems and structures. And I just sort of noticed a story earlier today of just photos of drive-through cinemas. Because it's such an easy way to sort of socially distance and go out, have actually sort of started to take off again particularly in Germany and the United States. And that's sort of my picture in the background. And whether we can think cleverly of like, can we have a drive-through theatre or drive-through art gallery? Probably wouldn't work too much, would be quite dangerous.
I quite like the idea of a drive-through art gallery, and it might be, I just want to say we've got this backdrop behind us, and we've got Rick is attempting to visualize the conversation to keep us creative in our responses. That might be a challenge for Rick to visualize a drive-through gallery, but I quite like the idea. Anyway, yeah, let's go to Carola. You've got your hand up. Carola?
Yes, I was just responding to Kane as well, just to develop that further. You know, the question about buildings has come up now, you know, and we probably all have to focus on, you know, when we do creative activities, is the purpose of, you know, is the purpose of art of bringing people into a building, or is it the accessibility to that art? And of course, buildings have their purpose in terms of preserving and keeping safe and being a sort of focal point of attraction. But at the same time, this, you know, this online new kind of world has sort of questions our relationship with the cultural buildings.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because we've got a couple of people, we've got Gina and Selma that have kind of got the backdrops of their buildings, but it's the outside of the building, not the inside. And does it, are we, in a way, is this suggesting that we need to sort of go out of our buildings, still keep them as a base, but actually kind of go more into the open world once we're allowed out, of course? Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
There's a side conversation happening on chat, and I wondered whether Tracy, you want to kind of bring your point into the open, and it is kind of responding a little bit to Carola, but also just talking about Tracy, do you want to have a go explaining what you were saying?
Hello everybody. So I work at Rich Mix, but also aware of what a lot of other community projects are trying to do, and individuals as well, you know, sort of obviously helping with food banks and delivering things to people, and I love the idea of the sort of alongside the food package, the art package, practical things like that. But I think it's about, you know, okay, we might be seeing a local community as neighbourhood arts centres or arts organisations or whatever, but actually that shouldn't be seen, and hopefully we could work in a way that would encourage us to be seen as just community settings as well, not having the label of creative or arts or something that might be appear elitist to some communities or separate to some communities.
So actually the art can be a sort of put people off in a way.
Put people off, and I think this could be an opportunity for some of the creative places or venues to, and I'm not saying this just for our own, oh, this would be good for us in the long run. I don't mean that. I mean, just in general, adjusting that perception of what these spaces are for. Yeah.
Okay, so does it kind of almost redefine what some of these spaces are for? I just want to come to Clive, because I think, Clive, you're needing to shoot off. And I should say this to anybody that is saying goodbye. Do give us a final thought, because it's often useful to get that final thought of, you know, as people are leaving the conversation. So don't just disappear. So do say goodbye. Also, I want to also point out the raised hand function. It's down the bottom on the participants. Anyway, Clive, go on.
Thanks for that. I didn't quite realise there was a raised hand function.
Not to worry.
Zoom for the last couple of weeks. Just want to point out, it's been really interesting because I've worked within Rich Mix, and everybody's talked about this dichotomy about, what are we going to do with our buildings now and how do we go forward. I have to also say, I work with outdoor arts. I know you guys from working in site-specific outdoor arts. Part of it has always been not just waiting for the audience to come to you, but we're talking about getting out to the audience, you know, and you guys have been around for ages about that. So this is an old story that everybody's now becoming sort of aware of, because we're in the new realms. And the whole idea of getting to your audience, even though we can't get out there, but doing site-specific work, streaming that, you know, let's not do work which is to camera, because this is our everyday now. Let's be creative about the work that we make. Be creative about the way that we get to people to see work. It might be an opportunity for audiences to see work in venues like Rich Mix, which they wouldn't usually do. You know, I haven't streamed my work there just because of the facilities and stuff, and I would do that in the future. And you know, we'll look at that. We'll look at archiving it. We'll look at what we do on our websites. I'm working with local authority, possibly at the moment, to do a festival, which is not about this. It's looking back to some of the things that we would do anyway, or have been ignored. It's always been the outdoor and indoors. I did a big piece of work with places like South Bank Centre, which is about opening up their public realm spaces. And, you know, like Richmond has got a lovely backyard, you know, opening up who comes through and what you do with this new sort of social distancing. So I don't want to go on about it, but I do want to sort of point out that we're not two different worlds, and it's really great to see venues having to rethink about how they engage with their audiences, you know.
It's a big challenge thrown in our face, and we've had so many questions here about connecting those people that we can't connect with, but also, you know, we're trying to, I think what I'm getting from you, Clive, is it's about mixing it up a little bit, and almost the inside becomes the outside, a kind of mixed strategy where you're streaming, but you're also getting in people's faces somehow, not literally in their faces, obviously. It's about
going out.
You
know, like one of the, I don't want to give away this, I'm being very cautious because it's a festival I might be doing. But it's about, you know, being able to do work in public spaces because we can't get out. It's reopening those public spaces, reinvented it, but also being able to stream that work into the indoors. It's being able to connect people with, in some ways, this is what art does, connect people with things they can't actually do at the moment. You know, and in connecting people with the outdoors, with a site-specific commission, with something which changes the view, is not to camera. I've seen rock stars doing everything. I've seen, you know, Sting the other day sitting like me doing. We don't want any more of that. And what it does is it breaks down the dichotomy of how we consume art as well. So I think we need to mix it up. And really, you know, it's like breaking the fourth wall. How's it taken so long for theatres to think, hang about this, you know, there's loads of stuff written about it, but maybe we're going to be forced into sort of doing some of that now.
So almost like, what is the Zoom equivalent of breaking the fourth wall? And Clive's very much got Sting fatigue, which we've all probably suffered with at some point in our lives. Too many rock stars doing to face. What do we do about it? Is it is it Kazi? You've had a raised hand for a while. Let me come to you. I'm unmuting you. Hello.
I would just really like to say, I want to just echo what Clive said about using the spaces. And a few years back, we actually did a project called A Disgraceful Waste of Space, and we just went to the park and we worked with young people, anybody that was passing by. And in fact, what is happening now, what is evidence, is there is a disgraceful waste of space. There's a lot of space in terms of cars in relation to people. You know, the cars take up so much of the space in terms of when you're walking now, into the social distancing. There's more space for cars than people. When you go into the park, the pathways are way too small for people to walk. So what do you do? But ultimately, for me, the conversation is taking art outside of buildings, and in fact, you engage with people more when you're in their space. And Tracy, who I adore, is completely, you know, I completely agree with him in the sense that art needs not to be in a building; it needs to be engaging, and especially when we work in, particularly myself, I work in engaging with people and participation. We have to be in a space where people are comfortable, and a lot of people don't actually have, the people that I work with, or some are very marginalized. They have one laptop in their family. They have one phone in their family. They don't even have a landline. So asking people to do things in this tough time, I don't know how they're doing it. I mean, they're probably going stir crazy. So there's lots of ways we've got to find, and I mean, so people doing sing-alongs on the streets and other ways to engage. We've got to find a way to reclaim our space and reclaim those streets, reclaim those spaces. And then, yes, maybe we can take it back to Rich Mix. And yes, we can take it back to the Brady Arts Centre and all those venues. But ultimately, the space is just not where we live in. It's a, you know, I mean, our project, when we did it, I think it was in 2006, actually, the question we asked was, do we define a place, or does a place define us? I just leave it with you.
Some big questions, some huge questions there. What I say, Kazi, is, and this goes out to everybody, is there a way to kind of, you know, take the art to people in a safe way where you're still, you know, breaking this wall, however you want to call it? Are there kind of imaginative way? We've already heard a lot of imaginative responses to this, how to do it. Margot, you've got a point?
Yeah, I've got a point, because this has been really good to hear about, you know, the initiatives that are happening in Tower Hamlets. Yes, the Rich Mix is in Tower Hamlets in East London, but I know that I think potentially we have people from outside of London. And talking about community, I mean, Tower Hamlets is such a great example of that, you know, how diverse communities can be. But I'd be keen to hear if there are people from outside of London, how do they connect with their communities, and is there anything that we can learn from in you know, in Big Smoke? Because I don't know about infrastructure. I mean, here we've got South Bank, we can take a bus, just go to this green or that green or whatever. Although I agree with you, Kazi, there's a lot of wasted spaces, but anyway. And I wonder whether there are, you know, how organizations outside of London, maybe in more rural places, connect with their communities. I don't know if anyone is able to answer.
Well, let's just put a call out there to people outside of London on the Facebook stream or on the Zoom. If you are not a London-based person, raise your hand, or your virtual hand. But I'm just going to leave that as a question hanging, because Laura has had her hand up for a while. So let me just come to you, Laura, and then also Stella as well, and Jens as well. So we've got a few people queued up there. So Laura first.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going back to what you said earlier about going outside, how organizations have to go outside their buildings. And I think this must be an attitude both during lockdown and after. And I'm a theatre maker as well as my work in arts and homelessness, and I'm not really seeing that from theatres in particular. And I know that is because there is kind of a crisis mode of like, just do something. But how can we as artists, as grassroots organizations that already do the work with the people and by the people, are able to influence that? How is there, have people have any advice or strategies to use this time as an opportunity? So then when we can gather together at the 2 meter distance or less, that there is space for these organizations, there is space for these artists and communities, because I'm afraid that we're gonna get even more behind than when we were before, especially because a lot of small organizations might not be able to tap into financial support during this time, and so its very existence is threatened.
It's a very common sense point there, Laura, as well, because you've got all these venues that are going to need to change their strategy, and you've got people like yourselves, and I'm sure there's other organizations that are on the stream as well that are outreach organizations, and that simple idea of just actually connecting those things together just seems like such a common sense thing to do. Is it happening? That's a question out there to you. I don't know, but is it happening? Should it be happening more? These are some of the questions. Let me come to Stella.
Hello. I'm up in the northeast. I live in.
Oh, hello. Welcome.
I've got family in living and working in Tower Hamlets.
Yeah.
I'm on the Council of Queen Mary, so I feel a strong affinity.
Yeah.
There. But I run the Festival of Thrift, which is an annual festival in September, and which is a mix of professional artists, workshops, demonstrations, amateur enthusiasts, upcyclers, recyclers, a whole range of things. And I've come on this really to listen and learn. I'm doing a lot of that. And again, with our audiences and our participants, thinking about how to reach them. We're not rushing in. We're not rushing in. There's lots of online content going on, but I think the really strong message coming through is that those people who we want to reach, the socially isolated, are even more socially isolated. So we need to work in partnership with those agencies who do connect with them, which might be community organisations, might be voluntary organisations, might be the public health department of the local authority, to find ways of getting to people. And we're really spending time thinking, what do people want and need? And this has come up a couple of times, that it's about identifying what people want and need. What are they missing? What do they long for? And we really need to be doing some pretty detailed research while we try and work out what we're going to do, instead of a huge free outdoor festival for everybody in September. What is that mix of small, local, in those isolated communities? What can we do online?
Can I just ask you, Stella, because I know you're still doing the research, but any inklings about what people want and need from those more isolated people? Have you got any sort of feeling about?
Together, they want to be part of shared things, and they might want to do things with their families and join in those participatory things together. So we've got to work out, how can we deliver things with people of different ages, different skill levels. So this is all the stuff that we're exploring at the moment. We've got a bit more time than others, but we've just been to an online festival that Gift ran at the weekend.
Yeah.
We're looking out for what, but we want to be learning from other people. So I hope we can stay connected with some of you here today.
That's great. So thank you, Stella, and thanks for your perspective from outside of London as well. And if you can throw some of those links into the chat, that would be amazing. I want to come to Jens. You've had your hand up for a while. So what was your point, Jens?
I raised my hand when you called from people outside London.
Okay, yeah.
I'm in Brussels, Belgium.
Okay.
And I'm deeply impressed by the creativity of individual artists and artist groups I have been following in various ways in how to get art and music into the homes. But is financing of all that not a constraint? There are whole orchestras who have been playing from at home, individual musicians, but they can't get the revenue from a concert. Does that constraint not apply to many of the projects going on? And what are the new ways to raise finance for that? We have new technology, which is fantastic, which enables this meeting. But what about the financing? The old-fashioned sponsorship and patronage may not work so well now, but there's got to be a way to get this funded. We can't expect the artist and the projects to be self-financing.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, from our perspective, we're just kind of doing stuff and hoping that the money, the way of making money out of it kind of comes later. But, maybe, I don't know how long we can do that for. I'm not sure. And probably everybody else that's doing stuff online has got the same kind of view. But that's a huge question. We're coming up with these imaginative ways of doing things. Can we sustain them financially in the medium term? Kane, you've had your hand up for a while. What's your point?
Yeah, I mean, I was about to make a really similar point to Jens. I think the sort of albatross here is around funding.
Yeah.
I guess sort of building on that, it sort of comes back to another earlier point that's made. I think it is really around the civic role of arts organisations. You know, I used to work at Battersea Arts Centre, and we used to define ourselves as, you know, our home is a town hall, but we very much are a town hall. And I think it's the organisations that will succeed and be able to access funding are those that are able to show that they are genuinely responding to their community's need. And I think, you know, working in fundraising myself, that's really where, you know, a lot of the funding is going across the board is towards those groups that are responding to greatest need. So I think there's a need to if you're not thinking about it already or not doing it, to really think about it.
Okay, so what you're saying is basically, I'm going to slightly paraphrase you. You need to sort of show how useful what you're doing is, and then that's the case for getting funding. Where we get the funding from and who's going to get the funding is another question which I'm going to throw out to the room, so to speak. Let me come to Anita. You've had your hand up for a while. What's your point, Anita?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just some thoughts. Been listening to the conversation. I live down on the coast. Coast in a village, so most of the time there's not very much going on here, and you'd have to go to the nearest big town, which is not big really, Folkestone,
right,
Canterbury, or perhaps Ashford, to see certain types of things. And obviously in lockdown that's not really happening, so I'm one person who's been really amazed and totally grateful for all the imaginative online events and opportunities, classes, all kinds of things happening. There is nowhere to go and nothing to do down here. My thoughts are around who's driving the agenda around what should happen and how it should happen. Because I think that and you know, I'm not an art practitioner now, but I used to work, you know, I've done work at Rich Mix and different, but a long time ago. So, you know, on the one hand, you've got practitioners and you've got venues and art centres thinking about how to stay relevant and where the next, you know, and how that feeds into funding from this point on. And you've got artists who are trying to, you know, kind of like stay in the mix, but working for free at the moment, which is not something that should continue. And I'm just thinking about imaginative ways of marrying all of that together. But with, you know, there was a lady earlier who asked about what is it that people need. I think that we know what people need. I think that people are saying what they need. I think people are responding to the things that are happening.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the fact that people like Sting or whoever else may be doing free stuff on work on Instagram is absolutely fantastic, because we wouldn't get free at any other time. But it's not just him, it's not just known artists, it's everybody. And the fact that this the current situation that we're in has brought everything, new ideas and creativity out of the box and into the atmosphere, if you like. And I would like to see that continue. I don't, you know, for me to go from here to London to go to events, which I often do, it's really expensive, it's too far. Somebody else has made that point already, but I've had access to so much that I wouldn't have access to because of this situation, and I live on my own. So every evening, you know, kind of like when you've been writing all day or whatever, you want to switch in. You don't want to necessarily switch into Netflix. You might do, but you might not do. On Saturday night, there was a women's film festival on YouTube. It was great. It was all stuff. And so I think don't kind of like throw the online stuff out because people might be feeling fed up with it, but kind of like, you know, there is something in there for everyone, and it's not about one particular group driving any particular agenda.
Yeah, so in a way it's just kind of organically spreading out there. There are, I mean, we've had quite a few different perspectives about the, you know, from a few different people, from Eleanor, from Gina, about the kind of advantages of this online world, that it does get to, it gets to people. They've got more attention. They're less distracted. But also people that are not necessarily got venues on their doorstep are more connected. So in some ways we are connecting people and we're getting different perspectives for sure. And I guess one of the questions on the back of that is how do we actually keep that going when situation changes? But it's great to have a perspective from out on the coast. Will, you had your hand up. Is it still relevant because you've dropped it again, or is it gone?
Yeah, no, we're just having a bit of a chat online at the moment. Izu said that we need to remember that we can't survive isolation time. The reason we can is at the moment, mainly thanks to artists' work, their books, their music, their films. We're trying to remember to support them afterwards. And just having a discussion about how and which people can support it. Maybe we need more networking across Europe and the world as a whole. And perhaps whether or not we need to look more into more local issues and get residencies based on those local issues as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting, this kind of global local thing, because it's, in a way, it's a very local conversation, but it's also very global. We've got people from Brussels here and from the Northeast and from down the South Coast as well. Kieran, what's your point? Hang on. Yeah.
Whoops. I just wanted to echo what Anita was just saying, that we've got a meditation class and it's gone up 500% since we went online compared to what before. Now, I'll just preface it that there's one person that it's gone to 5, but nonetheless, that's a really big improvement.
That is 500%, yeah.
And but also yoga online, the person we get to do our yoga class is doing all over yoga online, and she's amazed by the attendance and is considering not traveling around London all the time when this is over. And I think the point is to sort of carry on that effort of making it available to people. Maybe go and do the class, but also make it available for online for people that can't be, asked to travel or have the energy to travel.
What about the funding though? Because I mean, it's a little bit different, I suppose, from culture, but it's the same thing. Can you have a funding model that works for yoga online as it does, or meditation online as it does for...
Yeah, we're doing a donate button, and that does work. People are prepared to donate a small amount. I mean, if you increase the number you're seeing, then you can also bring down the level of payment that you expect. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's the only way it's going to work, but it certainly helps. I mean, you haven't got a donate button, I noticed.
Not yet. We're working on it.
Why not?
Well, because we need to change our legal structure. That's why we haven't got a donate button, because we need to be a CIC. It's a huge, and we're not going to go into it. It's not, but anyway, we're working on it. Let me come to Margot.
I was just kind of wondering about funding. I'm not bringing any comments from chat, although there is a conversation happening about funding that Laura has picked up, and also Carola. But I just kind of wondered whether people think that the value of art is changing, because observing when I donate, when I press that donate button, and the amount of my donation, they're definitely small donations, because I'm trying to be frugal with how I'm spending my money because of all the financial situation. But does that mean that the work that goes into preparing this online content, is it less, or can we expect more as the audience? I mean, it's not a real live experience, some of these things, but our costs are lower. So should we still be charging the same prices as we would for a ticket to attend XYZ event? Or is there expectation that everything should be free now? Because it's only online, I'm not really connecting. It's just like somewhere out there. I can tune in, tune out.
I mean, what kind of, how do you kind of decide how to donate? Is it just a kind of more instant thing? Is it just, throw some money in the hat kind of idea? That goes to everybody. Let me come to Daniel. I just also want to say we've got the visuals in the background being done by Rick. This is the one that I asked for, which was the drive-in gallery. We're kind of driving through a kind of Renaissance section of the gallery there. But anyway, is that how it will the National Gallery allow cars to come through? That's the question. Daniel, let me come to you.
Yes, well, I'm certainly not going to speak to the National Gallery. I work for Emergency Exit Arts, so we're an outdoor arts company, and we're very much aware of the digital and the real. So we're trying to move. what's happening digitally and online is fantastic, but we also believe that what people want and what people need is actually something more real as well. So we're trying to develop projects whereby we move it from the screen perhaps to the window, and then with the window perhaps to the balcony and the doorstep, and then when it's safe to do so, from the doorstep onto the street. So personally, I've been organising distant street parties down in Brighton every week for the last 7 weeks. Right. And you know, the excitement and feeling on the street between neighbours is amazing. So I think that, you know, I don't think we should be thinking about this either or world, whether that's digital or in life. I don't think we should be thinking about going back to normal, or are we going into a new way? I think we've got to join everything together. And I think that funding models in the arts are going to significantly change, because if we want change to happen in the society, and that we can't then just rely on the Arts Council or this or that or the other, there has to be a fundamental shift in value. Okay, I mean, I like this point of like mixing it up, and other people have said this as well. It's like the online can almost be an invitation to the real, and vice versa as well. That you can those things can lead to each other, and yeah, I mean, we're going to have to change a lot, and I guess this could be a place where we actually talk about these things. Hopefully, someone from the Arts Council or other funders is watching this. Hello. Make a comment if you want to. I want to come to Joanne, but just because you were talking, you sort of started off your first point was about what they're doing in Canada with the street and getting out onto the street. So let me come back to you. I've sort of lost you on this huge list of people. Joanne, there you are. Okay. What are you going to say? Oops, you're muted. Hang on. Yeah, go on. Nope.
Mute. Okay, I was more just going to reply to Margot about, because it is really interesting to see how with online work, how some things are totally for free, some things are very much encouraging a donation. And I have seen, actually also in Canada, I've seen a few now go to using Eventbrite or whatnot, and actually having you book a ticket for a specific time. And I do think in terms of the value of online work, it does still do that amazing thing where you get excited about a specific time, you know, you're getting a ticket, and yeah, so I do think you'll probably see more people move to that kind of thing, but the price point I've definitely noticed, you know, something like instead of maybe a £20 ticket, it was something like $5, you know, so yeah, I think that is really something that will be interesting to see.
Yeah, change. I mean, I guess it's different people, and who can charge for a ticket is another question. Is that online ticketing system going to work? Is it going to work for you, people out there? This is a question to throw to the people online here. Is that going to work?
I just wanted to say that I think Judith, are you leaving? Are you still here? I'm not sure. Because we tend to do the final thoughts. We don't let anyone slip out.
Well, it looks like Judith might have slipped out while we got overexcited. I can't see her on the list anymore.
Oh, I just saw her as I was speaking. Oh, well, anyway.
Yeah.
But if you are thinking about going, because obviously this is drop in and out, and there are people joining all the time and going, before you go, maybe just drop us a line on the chat, and it can be a continuation of what we're talking about. It could be a question to completely change the course of the conversation. Just feel free to just put it out there, and we'll bring it to the table. And also, if you are kind of on and off the Zoom and socials, please do share and tweet and include our handles as they are behind Mikey's back. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well. So let's keep this conversation really broad and ongoing. But yeah. Sorry, Tab.
Yeah, I mean, so many questions. I mean, it is kind of, and I will say, it's kind of the whole way Talkaoke works. It's kind of up to you where you want to take this conversation. I just want to go to Laura, that's had a hand up for a while. What was your point?
Thank you. I just wanted to come back to Daniel's point of the shifting of the kind of the fundraising and the funding system or model. And I would love to hear a little bit more about that and what that shift could be, because I feel that in the last 10 years, there was a lot of talk about how organizations need to be more sustainable. And that sustainability was achieved by diversifying income. And so people were encouraged to diversify their income, including kind of raising the amount of earned income versus trust and foundation and other private sources or public sources with the Arts Council. Now, without being able to sell tickets, that earned income has disappeared, and these, organizations are now in difficulty. So how can we rethink a system that doesn't put all the onus on audiences? Because I think that would drive prices up, and then we find ourselves in a situation where a lot of people will be excluded again. And my last point about funding is there seems to be a paradox where at the moment we recognize more and more the value of culture and creativity because we are in this situation of isolation, yet we spend less and less money because we are in a difficult lockdown economical position for a lot of us.
The worst thing we want to be done is being given key worker status, because then you get paid really bad money if you're a key worker. So that, I think that's the irony there, is like the more essential you seem to be, the less money you seem to get.
Exactly. And how can we break this? Because if the model doesn't change, we're just gonna create bigger and bigger divides as the crisis unfolds.
Absolutely. I mean, just coming back to your second point, Laura, before you go, is how would you mix up this funding model? Do it. Have you got any thoughts on that? And it's a difficult question, but
well, my initial thought was definitely, and as soon as I think about this, I feel really defeated, because my way of thinking about it is that culture and creativity should be a basic service that exists and everyone has access to, and therefore should be better funded by the government, both centrally and locally. Now, seeing the political landscape and the economical landscape, I have a lack of imagination of how that can happen.
Yeah. How can it happen? I mean, it is a question. I mean, with the current situation, how does that actually happen? I mean, it sort of reminds me a little bit of something that we were talking about on a different Talkaoke, which was this National Art Service idea that came out. But Chris has had his hand up for a while. Let me just go to you, Chris, and then we'll put that out there to everybody. Can we mix it up? Are we in danger of just being an essential but underfunded service? Chris?
Totally different topic, if that's okay.
Oh, no, go on. That's your right on Talkaoke. Go on, throw it in there.
It was just to get people's thoughts on do's and don'ts and cans and can't do's with furlough leave, as to how interactive people feel furloughed staff could be or should be. So things like attending meetings, observing, use of Twitter, use of Facebook, that kind of thing. So I don't know if I'm just throwing that up in the air to see if anyone's got any thoughts on, I suppose, the rules, if you like, of engagement for furloughed staff.
I'm just going to throw that back to you just while you're unmuted. Have you got any thoughts on it yourself? Turn the mirror on to you. What do you think about this? And if you want to say who you work for, then that, or are furloughed for.
Sorry, I'm producer for Red Ladder Theatre Company based in Leeds, National Touring Theatre Company. Yeah. I'm last man standing now for the company. The other staff are furloughed, and it was just it's this dichotomy of keeping people informed and in touch, but also not abusing either their part in this or their status, and also keeping with the parameters of HMRC within reason. So it feels to me that people can certainly attend virtual meetings. What their input and output and the recording of such, that is a grayer area for me. So whether it would just observing, say, a board meeting or a staff meeting with freelance staff, or an artistic meeting. It's just really to get a kind of...
I think that does link with the question that Laura posed, which is about how the money works, and also about this question that I think of, like, when does it become exploitation? Is it exploitation? People are putting stuff in, and I'm sure the people in your theatre company, even if they're furloughed, will want to contribute. But how do you actually handle that kind of question. And how do you handle this question about, I guess there's a legal side, but also there's a kind of ethical side as well. Anyone want to answer that? Where do we want to go with this conversation? Margot?
You just made me think of this thing, Chris, where, you know, when one works in kind of, I don't know, let's say a factory, you're not really expected, nor do you have to some extent, bring your work home. And I wonder, for all of us, you know, either practicing artists or people working in arts administration, broadly speaking, or with communities, young people, whoever it may be, it's very hard to kind of not bring work home, because we're working with, you know, with real people. And it's certainly something that I found quite hard to kind of disconnect from being furloughed, just to kind of, you know, how do I split these things up? And, you know, does that mean I have to go completely quiet, or do I have to censor what I'm saying if I'm not working for an organization? But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's so hard to kind of split this up. But I also feel like it's making me really tired working with people, you know. It's a different kind of tiredness, and working in, you know.
What can you explain a bit more about that tiredness? What is it about, the tiredness? Can you kind of,
you know, if you're bashing out emails, nameless emails, or even emails to people who are real, it's a one form of communication. I recently listened to something, why are people scared of picking up calls if they could just text? And people do prefer texting and emails because that gives them time to respond, to kind of, you know, collect their thoughts. But if you're working with people directly in real life situation or on the phone or whatever, then you have to have your entire focus on them in that situation. And I think that just requires different, I don't know, mental processes and energy.
Okay, so it's a kind of, we're in a way, our brains are being pulled in different ways. I just want to point out the visualization behind me from Rick. This is very much flattening the curve, but probably in the wrong way, where the curve's kind of going down, or is it going up? I don't know, because I'm seeing it in reverse. Anyway, how are we gonna? I guess it comes to the money thing. It's kind of up to you. The way Talkaoke works, it's kind of up to you where you want to take this. Do we want to talk about the furloughing? Do we want to talk about the emotional impact, the legal perspective? Do we want to talk about something that connects these? Piotr, you've had your hand up for a while. Let me come to you. Go on.
Yeah, hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm not working in any of art communities, and I'm not like engaging much, really, to be honest. Just joined here to listen to the conversation, to be a little bit out of the four walls, basically. Yeah, just to comment about the last few things which Margot mentioned, and the other, I'm not remembering the name. Sorry. Like this coronavirus, that pandemic crisis, actually, I think it's changed a little bit how companies need to cooperate with their employees. I mean, I'm comparing right now, looking for like how televisions are creating new programs. So recently in Poland, the televisions are producing the operas, like episodes created by actors recording in their homes. So by just recording the few, like recording from different actors, and they stitching them up. So I think the companies, like art companies as well, could change this a little bit, like yeah.
But I mean, can I just ask you, Piotr, while you're on, would you, because one of the things we're talking about is funding. As a viewer of this, would you be willing to pay for an opera that is coming from the opera singers different and the orchestra's different homes somehow linked together? Would that be something you'd buy a ticket for?
Yes, I would, but as well, I wouldn't pay the same price. As the real experience.
And would you dress up for it as well? Is another question.
I'm not sure. I didn't think about it, to be honest.
Okay, well, that's something that goes out to everybody, really. You know, so from your perspective, you're quite interested in what's happening out there in terms of what's going on in Poland and how they're actually just changing, changing the dynamic.
I like observing how actually the companies are actually start adopting to the situation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, I think so many people have said this as well. There's so much creativity in actually dealing with these situations. There was a point, but it's gone now. Have we killed it? I can't remember who it's from now. Yep, Margot?
There's a lot of conversations happening on Facebook, and I wonder whether we can bring some stuff in. One of the things that some time ago Simon said, so his name was actually genuinely Simon, maybe time to challenge the idea that artists live on air. Anyway, people pay £10 for a cocktail yet expect decades of practice for free.
Right.
And that's coming from Hackney Tours. And Simon, if you're still listening on Facebook, sorry we came to this like quite late, but I think it's an interesting point going back that, you know, to conversation about funding and how do we put price on the online content.
Okay, I just want to say to the people on Facebook, we're doing this one for free. You're welcome. But come onto the Zoom chat. We'll put a link into the Zoom chat if you want to come and say something online, because this is also about people talking. We want everyone to say your bit. Carola, you had a point. Is it still there? Hang on, let me just unmute you. Yeah, go on, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was just responding also to the last discussion in terms of that it is nowadays so easy to stream, and we've had in the last decades increasingly streamed live events from London into the regions in the UK. But actually something difficult was happening there, because that squeezed out the live local regional art in those spaces. So we really have to always be conscious of the fact that there's a place making, a community building needing to go on to be supported, and not just the cheap central outward streaming of arts and culture. I
mean, we should, I don't know if there's anyone from Royal Opera House or National Theatre listening. Would you run a stream from a theatre in Folkestone or in Stoke into the National Theatre? Would it go that way around, or on your portal? Because it, as you say, it's a one-way. Is it a one-way street? The big names and the big companies going out, but do we find out what's going on? We've got representatives here from all around the place, and maybe it's time to go back to some of those as well. And yep, Margot?
Yeah, I do know. I haven't thought of it, but I think it'll be just so great to have this kind of role reversals, like people were saying for ages, like, oh yeah, we should work more collaboratively, but you know, it's just so hard to set up. And oh my God, yes, we should be reaching out to theatres out in regions, you know, like they need to be helped and stuff. But I wonder whether that help could stretch, you know, in a way like you were just saying, Royal Opera House giving up their channels to a regional theatre to be like, okay, we're streaming this and we're standing behind this work because we believe in it. Or would there be a block of, there is a certain kind of art that we won't publicize here because that's going to compromise our years of building our brand? Because being creative is a brand now, you know, everybody's got their brand. Each art center has a brand, you know, and I sometimes feel like communities are used as, you know, just kind of, you know, I don't know, just like additions to
kind of material to be,
brand.
To be thrown around. They're material behind the brand, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you want to talk? Kieran, what's your point?
No, I was just going to say what Margot's saying. I wanted to do an online writing course, and I thought, well, actually, I don't need to go to Morley College down the road. I'll start looking around. And then by the end of it, it was like, oh my God, there's so many things online. I'm just going to go back to the trusted brand, City Lit, Morley College, and look at what they're doing, because I just don't know who these people are and whether it's any good. Some of them were £5 and some of them were £1,000, and you do get rather lost online, I think.
Right. Okay.
I don't know how Björk finds stuff online when he's searching, because I don't really know where to begin to look.
Okay, so like it's just a huge universe out there. In the end, in that kind of jungle, the bigger brands probably come out on top. Should the bigger brands be helping the smaller brands? Does that in the end dilute their brands? What do people think? Anyone want to answer that? Is there a way to sort of almost reshape that kind of online world? Carola, back to you.
So I think probably the question is the wrong one. It's not about, you know, the bigger brands being better. It's about bringing diversity in, diversity also from the regions, diversity from the communities. And we have the opportunity to bring that diversity in. At the moment, we're not quite using it if we're too centralized within a sort of London outwards kind of focus.
Okay, but how do we change that landscape? I think it's a question that both Kieran and Margot are saying, you know, because people, whether it's a brand or just, you know, people do rely on the big names and the familiar names.
Well, I would say we're already on that journey, and I think that this crisis, we've learned so much in such a short time. So the future just suddenly rushed in upon us in a bad way, but also where we have to adapt of how we do things. And that gives some opportunities in terms of networking, partnerships, new partnerships. And I think there have been several projects by the Arts Council, for instance. They've given funding for, I think, 16 different leadership training courses across the whole region. So the Arts Council over the last 10 years, of course, has focused on disseminating that support regionally. And I think we're only beginning to see, you know, the diversity of that and an equal diversity, because arts and creativity, as we know, happens fabulously well all over the place. It's just the ability to invest in that is at the moment still quite hooked up to London.
So in a way, culture happens by itself, and the investment is actually in the kind of networking and the platforming of that culture. There's a point from Margot. I just want to say as well too, there's some people that have been quietly listening. I'm sure you've got thoughts and ideas. We'd really like to hear from them, either on voice or on the chat channels. We really want to hear from absolutely everybody that's out there listening to this. But Margot, you had a point. Is it coming from the chat, or is it your own point?
It's my point, but it's also kind of coming from the chat, because Laura's saying about, you know, giving the stage to regional theatres, minority groups, homeless people, and everyone from the outside of the circle, so to speak. They need to be in. And my personal worry is that you know, this kind of the kind of monitoring of what is being put out there by the brands will stifle, you know, the variety of what's out there. I mean, just thinking about the low cost R&D fund, that's the deadline on Thursday. I mean, when I was looking at it, it's just really, it expects artists and, you know, people to propose creative things, but in a very specific frame. And I just wonder whether this is our time to redefine what this creativity is and actually dismantle, you know, what the mainstream sees as creativity and something worthwhile. And this is the content, I'm putting out the content, I'm broadcasting something. But what about letting that conversation in? I don't know. Can we do normal after this? I don't know. But there's loads of chat going on from Stella. Stella, I haven't read what you said, but how about... Do you fancy having a go saying what you...
Stella, come back to us. Come back to us. I don't know where you've gone. But,
and Anita is going, so maybe before you go, Anita,
all right. Let's get a final thought from Anita. Where I can't find Anita. That's the only problem.
Oh, is she gone already?
No, she's there. Actually, I found her. She just lost her.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there? Okay, yes. Excellent. Yes. Sorry, there's so many people around and about. Anita, what were you going to say?
I just put my final thoughts in the chat box, and all I said was that culture is diversely organic, and that's where we need to... That's what we need to remember when we're planning and thinking and collaborating with each other. It doesn't necessarily come from one source, it comes from everywhere.
I mean, I guess what people have been saying, Anita, is that they're kind of agreeing with you. I think Carola's point was similar to that, but it's about the stage and the spotlight. How do we kind of shift the stage to actually capture more of that diversity? Any thoughts on that?
I just think that maybe not think about it in terms of stage and spotlight, but you know, I think somebody else earlier people were talking about going out to the audience, but even before doing that, you know, the audience is always there, whoever they are. And part of the problem with practice, as I see it at the moment, is that because of the nature of funding and everything else, is that audiences have to be don't have to be, but they are labeled, and because you're meeting this audience or that audience, whatever, but the audience is always there, and there's always stuff going on, and it's an upward, bottom up kind of thing that happens, and it's just really important to remember that. And in terms of talking about, I heard Margot say that term just now, the brands. It's like, I'd be really happy if this situation just encourages everybody to find new ways of working together that they haven't done before, in terms of collaboration. So there isn't any stage, there isn't any spotlight. It's just everyone doing what they do. And maybe that's a little bit idealistic, but in where there's going to be scarce funding, because there is going to be, then it forces new ways of working, and I think that's probably a really good thing.
Okay, so it's, in a way, it's necessity is the mother of invention, and we're doing a lot of invention right now. There's loads of people with their hands up. Stella, you were mentioned, so I'm just going to jump you ahead of the queue. Lara, I've got you. I'll come to you in a second. What were you saying?
Okay, I just mentioned in the chat about the furlough scheme. I think it's really important at the moment, especially going forward, that it's a really uncertain time for people, and those people who have been furloughed, they need clarity. And I think that I know that I work as a digital marketing manager, and a lot of, as an arts marketing agency, we work with thousands and thousands of venues across the UK, and obviously everything's come to a bit of a halt. It's really important to have clarity. At the moment, the furlough scheme does mean that if people are furloughed, they cannot work for the organisation they work for. That includes social media, that is work. I've got a digital team, that's work. And I think that just stay up to date with the scheme. It's really important too. I think there's some great schemes out there as well. I've jumped on board with a thing called Volunteer, which is basically volunteering while you're furloughed. It's a really great scheme because a lot of people have time to spare and they've got skills to share, so people can volunteer in this time. And I think in the arts, people, like, there's charities in the arts, people can share those skills, so jump on board in those times and it will keep your minds active. I know a lot of people are struggling at the moment, so if you can help or share, it will help both ways. So that was just, I've shared the link to obviously the government.
Fantastic. You're ahead of me. I was about to say that. Okay, great stuff. I mean, I think there's still, I will say, Stella, that I think there's still a little bit of it might legally be very clear, but I think there's still a grey area in terms of expectation of what you do when you're furloughed. But anyway, we've got that one kind of running, but I just want to come, because I'm conscious of Lara's had her hand up for ages. So what's your point?
My point is more like a comment about what you said about the system, and could this be an opportunity to rethink the system? Because I do think that obviously I have a London point of view, but it's unsustainable. It's unsustainable for smaller companies. It's unsustainable financially. The fringe is completely unsustainable, and also it perpetuates the same kind of people doing the same kind of things. And so I wonder if there's any way that this could be an opportunity to rethink the structure of everything, because if we don't use this kind of almost resetting that we have been thrown at, then what's in a way it almost feels like everyone has made a humongous sacrifice for nothing. And if it's like, can this be an opportunity to really rethink, like, this thing about brand? Who decides? Like, the thing is, like, my feeling is that the big institutions are really gatekeepers, and they decide what to do, and they decide what's in and what's out, and everyone else is constantly banging at the door. I feel like I've been begging for 10 years of my life. Like, oh, please give me a little bit of a space, consider me. And I feel it's incredible, as a theatre maker, it's incredibly I don't know, humiliating as well, and it feels like you're not given an opportunity to grow, and especially when you want to promote diversity and different people. There is a big conversation mainly on Twitter on international artists or migrant artists, there is complete lack of representation of first generation migrant. We don't exist. Like, it's like little things like that are they is this going to be an opportunity to really open and maybe from people to say, okay, I have a brand, but you know, I'm not God. Maybe I can actually consider that there are people coming in.
Yeah. I mean, I just want just a very quick one about this restructuring or rethinking the structure. Can you throw something in about how that might happen? I mean, did anybody invent it? Is it just the way it is? I mean,
for me, I don't know. I mean, I'm talking a completely utopian kind of situation, but it's like it's the lack of co-productions from venues. Like, for instance, you know, it's the lack of, because I think for small, I'm talking about small producing companies like us, for instance. If we don't produce a show in collaboration with the venue, it's really so difficult to survive. You know, like you have to pick people. Everything is about selling, and so you're really limited in how you can develop and how, and so I think rethinking collaborations between venues and artists, where you go beyond how many tickets can you sell, what's your marketing strategy, and try to really think artistically. But I don't know whether you need a kind of utopian
well, I mean, there was a point earlier on that I'm just going to come back to, I think that was made by Laura, which is like now venues have to kind of get onto the outside because people aren't going to come in, so maybe they will almost be forced to connect with those companies that have got their fingers out there. That's a kind of, you know, that's possibly unrealistic optimism, but possibly that will happen. Let me come to Jens. What's your point, Jens?
Yes, it just struck me. For the last 1 hour and a half, nobody has mentioned Brexit. And that has been a relief.
Coronavirus killed the Brexit chat.
Well, that has been a relief. But if you take the implications of Brexit, and if you take the implications of what could be considered a new lifestyle enforced upon us all by the virus, it's not an entirely new lifestyle, but it's a reinforcement of trends that now are coming right out in the open. The value and role of arts in life, online education, business from at home, and so on. I think, and my point is, Britain has really an opportunity to be a world leader on adapting to this new environment, because you're no longer dependent on the red tape in Brussels.
Okay.
And you have some fantastic institutions in Britain. I know that, I've lived there. You have the language in the first place, which is a great help communicating with the rest of the world. So my point is, business, the arts, education, technology development, the works. Britain really has a major opportunity here ahead of the rest of the pack on the continent.
Okay, interesting point.
I'd say that I agree.
Well, if you do disagree, you know, and this is what this is all about. Have we got? Is this an opportunity? New ways of working, new structures. That's what we're talking about. I'm going to also kind of throw that into what I think the direction I think this conversation's going is is about this. How do we re-envisage this structure of what arts and culture could look like? And I think different people have got different points and different views on this, and it'd be good to get that diversity of views. I just want to go to Anna, because you're not on video and sometimes you can get overlooked, but you've had your hand up for a while. What was your point, Anna? Hello, Anna, can you hear me? Well,
Hi, I'm a professional fundraiser and I've worked in the arts sector for about 15 years now.
Yeah.
I've posted on the Zoom chat that the Institute of Fundraising is now funded by the Arts Council, and I'm involved as a volunteer with the Institute of Fundraising, and we're actually putting our events online and they're open to everyone. You can book through Eventbrite, they're free because they're funded by the Arts Council, and they're about reaching donors online. That's what the first one is about, but we've got 12 events throughout the year. So please do have a look at them, because that should help you with your fundraising questions. Really, my kind of opinions about fundraising, just quickly, in this crisis are twofold, really. Firstly, we need to be much braver about asking for money. Although I realise there are lots of vulnerable audiences out there, you would be very surprised to hear that there are lots of people with lots of money out there as well. And we've got to remember that there are people who will give to the arts if you ask them. So we've got to be brave.
So maybe we're just not asking people enough, and we're not kind of, I mean, it comes back to this point. I don't know if you were in the chat when we were saying it's clear that what the arts are doing is essential, but are we, you know, are we being exploited? Are we being undervalued? Is it a question of us just saying we need more money and just going out to maybe more diverse?
I think it's linked to how we value ourselves.
Yeah.
Basically, we've got to be more aware of our importance, but also we've got to measure our impact more. So I think for a long time in the arts, we haven't really measured the impact we have on people. And this will become clearer and clearer because funders will start directing their money to the organisations that can demonstrate their impact. For example, I'm a trustee at the Yard Theatre, and the Yard have worked in conjunction with the local council to deliver projects that impact directly on the local population. And that has been funded by lots of different funders because they are really passionate about that arts work going to the most vulnerable people. And they've also been able to demonstrate their impact by running it year on year and asking for feedback and monitoring what they're doing. And I know that sounds onerous, but I think it's really important that we actually demonstrate what impact we're having on people in the community. And if we can't demonstrate that, it might be at risk.
Can I just ask you, I don't know if you've been in touch with the Yard recently, but how are they managing to do that? Because if you were here at the very beginning of this conversation, we were talking about this worry and this concern about the people that don't go on Zoom meetings or get, you know, expose themselves to online streaming.
Yeah.
Are they managing to find ways to still connect to people in these times?
Like somebody was saying earlier, what they did is they got their outreach people to produce art packs, which they then distributed through their community networks and through the community organisations they work with to individuals in their homes. Then the young people that have got access to the internet or have been helped to have access to the internet, they're now delivering online classes for those young people. So it's a mix really of those who can get online, have online classes, and those that can't, they've delivered art packs for free to their homes.
Okay, great stuff, great stuff. We've got Piotr, you've had your hand up for a while, and Daniel, I can see you've had your hand up. I'll come to you in a second. Let me just, as we're coming into the sort of last bit of this, let's keep the points, I know it's me as well, just going on, but let's keep the points brief as possible. Piotr, what's your point? Go on. Yep. Oh.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it will be my final thought as well because I'll be leaving. So yeah, I just wanted to come back and make a comment regarding the diversity, which Margot said about and about how to reach to different people as well, as homeless people, especially. At the same time, when Margot was telling that, I was imagining similar what we have now. Like I had imagined like a box, something similar to telephone box on the street, for example, with the camera and monitor, and it's like a transparent that you know you can enjoy, you can join, you can talk with the community, you know, as well. It's not only for homeless people. Everyone from the street could join, and he doesn't need to show his face as well. He can be you know anonymous as well.
So okay, so some kind of, I think what I'm getting from that is some kind of phone box type installation. I'm not quite sure.
The phone box. It's something similar, like the but you know, placed on the street so everyone can join. You know, and then here you can maybe you can put, okay, just tell us the story, and someone could come tell click the record, you know, record the story and make like something creative.
Okay, so actually you're harvesting stories from that installation, getting out there on the street again as well. I think it's a lot of people have said that. Daniel, let me come to you.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing Jens from Belgium talk about the opportunities that maybe Brexit brings, and I've certainly been. I mean, I and our organisation, obviously, and I'm sure most people here, most of the arts community, have been against Brexit for many years. But I think that potentially there is an opportunity. I think that, you know, the appetite for change, the appetite for things not going back to exactly how they were, they're not going to go back to how they were anyway. I mean, air travel is finished for the time being. And so I think the opportunity and the role for artists as activists, not to be sitting there waiting for the societal changes, but to be on the cutting edge of that change, I think are extraordinary. You know, and I think I'm starting to borrow from the Brexit mantra, which is take back control.
Right.
I think that whether it's through slowly venturing back onto the streets, street by street, but I think it's absolutely time. Most people feel that the current democracy is fairly broken. So I'm interested in exploring that.
Okay, so what
activist.
Could you steal the slogan "Take Back Control" and make it mean something for you? What would take back control actually mean in these testing times? I mean, for sure, we've heard that there's been a lot of invention and creativity in these times, but what about control?
What it means to me is actually people are beginning to set up WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups of their street, and they're having different communications with their schools and with their neighbours and with their local authorities, and it feels like it's a bottom-up potential for a different way of communicating and coexisting.
Great, good stuff. All right, Kieran, what's your point? Hang on.
Are you unmuting each other?
All right. Maybe we need to come up with a system there, Mikey. Who unmutes who?
Well, to be honest, Kieran, it's only you really.
No, that's not true.
I unmuted you, Kieran. I intervened.
Anyway, they're the witnesses. They can decide that one. I was just saying I just really wanted to add in what I think what a rubbish scheme furlough is. I mean, they're paying organisations to lay off everybody. If they do any work whatsoever, then they're not eligible for it. So in a way, what they're doing is muting the very people that keep these organisations alive for 3 months. And then everyone has to volunteer for another organisation that they know nothing about and how it works. And everyone has to be trained. And I think it's a really terrible bloody system. And I think the same people who came up with that have got Brexit in their hands. So good luck with that working.
I mean, what do you think about taking back control?
I think it's a nice idea, Daniel, but I think that in a real essence, we're just going to go back to what we were doing. In fact, I found myself looking at flights on BA yesterday for September and found some real bargains and found like going, maybe. So I'm not sure we're going to change that much.
All right, okay. Are we going to have a new world? Is it going to be the same world, just with a different perspective? Kane, what's your point?
Hello. I've got to leave now because I've just been told that I have to actually go and host a workshop myself in a second.
Okay, have you got any ideas from this one?
Well, I really like, I think sort of picking up on the fact that the furlough system, though it's an important lifeline, there is that fundamental issue that you're sort of cutting off members of staff, and whether there's just a really, whether there should be a kind of furlough exchange system where cultural organisations just pair up with one another, you know, so Rich Mix might pair up with Battersea Art Centre or, you know, the MAC in Birmingham, and they just sort of swap staff. So you get all of their furloughed staff and, you know, Rich Mix gets all of the other organisations' furloughed staff. Might be quite a neat, you know, I think people are keen to volunteer. It might just quite a neat fix. So maybe we set up a little spreadsheet or something.
Okay, is the answer to this setting up a spreadsheet and getting
who's going to do
around? Yeah,
it doesn't like an online Google sheet.
Yeah, is it like almost like a kind of musical chairs for cultural venues and everyone just works for each other? It's maybe it's a bit like going on holiday, except you're working for the MAC in Birmingham.
Maybe that's the Arts Council's role now.
Or get the people from Royal Opera House to work for a tiny theatre somewhere in the region. You know, just
What, the entire staff team?
Yeah.
They have like 1,000 staff.
Okay, so potentially this could be kind of revolutionary and push some of the buttons that we were talking about earlier on. I feel like it is kind of that final thoughts sort of time.
Mm.
I'm gonna go. So
thank you, Kane. Thanks for you did the very, very first question. So thanks for getting us going.
How will anyone beat that?
I feel like you're in the Scottish National Gallery there. Am I right?
Yeah, no, I'm very good spot.
Okay, so where are we going to go with this? I feel like it's final thoughts. There's been so much said, and I also want to point out the illustrations or visualizations that Rick's been doing to kind of like pique your creativity and get this into a creative space. But there's a lot of different kind of elements here from this idea of like, how do we connect to those people that are not necessarily comfortable online, and those excluded people, to the question about changing the structure, what we can learn from each other. These has been some of the big themes. What do we do with all these furloughed staff? We're kind of into our last little bit now, so it is time for final thoughts. So I just want to say to anyone out there, anyone that's listening, please do give us a final thought. Margot, has there been anything on the chat just while?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of spreadsheets, I was super impressed that Laura just pasted a link to a spreadsheet, which maybe you can explain, Laura, in your final thoughts, but it seems like a spreadsheet of skill swap for creatives. Theatre Skillshare, rather, it's what it's called. Have a look, maybe you're already on it, I don't know. I'm going to check if I'm on it, but it seems like the spreadsheet already exists, and maybe that's some valuable resource.
That's not the only thing that Laura's posted about things that already exist. There's some kind of phone box idea that you posted as well, Laura. So you seem to be there. Helena, let me just come to you. What's your point?
Hi there. I just wanted to say that I've been thinking a lot about how this reveals the importance of the artist designer voice in raising questions and responding to them, whatever is going on in the context. So how organizations, I work for V&A Museum of Childhood as well, and how we really go back thinking about how we build in artists, supporting them and learning from them and the young people we work with more and more as we move forward, because I do agree that this has just revealed how crucial our artists are in helping us reflect and helping us process trauma, a kind of change, all of these things. So I'd just love to talk more to people about that moving forward.
Have you got any ideas to begin with about how it might happen, how you might just strengthen
I think
those connection with
more
artists?
residencies.
Yeah.
As V&A Museum of Childhood, we're starting to do that, but to do it much more, and for that to be, and also, you know, link that to children's voices being, we're really working on this at the moment, but much more thinking about how the children's voices are enabled to ring really strong. That's very particular to V&A MOC, but
yeah, I mean, I mean, I think it spreads across to other people as well. I'm sure other people will respond to that. You know, how do we get those voices heard, more stronger connections with artists? What does a residency look like when we're all self-isolating as well, is probably a question. Let's just get some final thoughts. And let's also, there's been a few people there that have been, you know, you've been on this journey, 2-hour journey with us now from beginning to end. If you've not said anything, I'd really like to hear from you now with an initial stroke final thought. Anyone that's not said anything want to say something?
I mean, there's something, I mean, Chelsea, I don't know if you want to have a go, just giving us a glimpse of what you kind of putting out there on the chat, but you've got a perspective of working on festivals, outdoors festivals.
Hi. I work within the festival world. I'm a scenic artist, and obviously because of what's happening, my work's fully crumbled.
Yeah.
But obviously I've got the self-employed support scheme, which obviously I'm really grateful for that, even though I think similar to the furlough, I don't think it really kind of pays off for what I would be getting, but you know, that doesn't matter. But what I posted on the the chat is that Noisily Festival, a small music festival that obviously isn't happening this year, they are on the kind of brink of, because of all of their licensing and everything like that, they're like 150 grand deficit, which they've now made 60,000 back from like fundraising and schemes. But I've just been sent a message about what they're trying to bring the community together. So like so kind of like a skills swap. They're trying to raise more money by maybe people donating off their artworks or items, maybe doing one-on-one tutorials, tuitions, chef experiences, signed copies of books and merchandise. So they're kind of calling on like, you know, visual artists. Like that.
So in a way, they're getting that festival, kind of blending it up and then squeezing it down the pipe, so to speak, into all these different directions, and sort of like, I guess you'd encounter the chef in a festival, but now the chef is coming to you, or a bit of the chef.
So it's kind of like
liquidized chef.
So again, it's not, it's more the whole skill swapping. So and that's to raise money to hopefully so they can survive, so they can happen again next year and beyond. So I thought that was quite a nice way of bringing the community together and trying to kind of make this festival that's so lovely to survive.
I wanted to bring in Tracy because you're going now for some general nourishment, because your brain is completely nourished now, I take it. I mean, we've all other body parts. So do you want to just give us a parting thoughts before you jump off? No. Leave me alone, she says.
Literally, I could hear my stomach rumbling and trying to listen to people, but
well, I mean, we talked about the food parcels and the art parcels going together.
Sorry, it's got to be the food parcel and art parcel delivered to me, please. I need
okay, we'll work on that.
I've loved it. Thank you very much. I'll see you all later.
All right, thanks for your thoughts.
Before.
Let me come back to, thank you. Let me come back to Helena. Oops.
That was actually a mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Disclaimer, I haven't worked this out.
All right, have you got a final thought while we're talking to you?
I want us to like have something like this on the marble floor at MOC when we reopen, and we can be really distant there because it's big.
Yeah. Well, I know what it's like at the Museum of Childhood. Can we get the kids just online and we can mute them? Is it possible?
No, we can't mute them. They've got to be speaking loud and clear. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, okay, so let's get this going. Let's get this also into the venues and out of the venues. Denise, you've got a point? Hang on, yep. Oops, no, hang on, let me just, I can't seem to unmute for some reason. Hang on, Denise, oh, no. And again.
Yeah.
Go on. Go on, you're live, you're live, yeah.
Oh, I'm live, so sorry. I just wanted to pick up on the point about fundraising. You know that the London funders have signed a pledge that they'll support the organisations that they're currently funding. I sit on a couple of foundations and we're not funding new organisations for the time being, but we're making sure that those that we do fund are okay. But I think the point about us all collectively making sure that the funders know what we want and what we need, rather than waiting for them to kind of come to us, you know, like GLA or Arts Council and so on. Our voice needs to be heard collectively about what our organisations actually need. I'm a board member of Rich Mix and also V&A Museum of Child and various others. But if we're doing another conversation, I think we need to be thinking about that and then come forward with making sure that those funding bodies know what we need, rather, you know, from the bottom up.
I mean, how is that communicated or defined? Is it like just producing a document from everybody, or is it like?
Well, one of the foundations I sit on, actually, we're kind of waiting for the organisations to tell us. So, you know, so we might have funded, say, something that the group's going to be doing with children, but they won't be able to do it for a while, so that's on hold. You know, so do they give the money back? Do they keep the money to do it next year, and so on? So, you know, there are a lot of funding streams that we need to kind of look at. And
I guess I suppose it's about being creative and doing something that kind of does the best for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, if we think, I mean, Arts Council's been pretty good. They've been really supportive at Rich Mix. So, with them, you know, the conversation with them rather than at them, I think is needed.
Okay, so let's have a proper conversation and talk about what we need. Selma, you were nodding on that one. You've not said much, but hang on. You've got a reprieve because Margot wants to say something. Go on.
No, just what Denise was saying just reminded me of a point that Kiri from earlier made. It was on the private message, and I was encouraging her to put it on the general chat, but then she disappeared. So
yeah,
it all spiraled into chaos. But she was saying, "Can we form a movement?" And I think, you know, so I wanted to ask her how to do it. I think something around the collective action as a result, or you know, as an inspiration coming from this meeting and all the conversation that people are having. And kind of being proactive in bringing our viewpoints to the funders and to the wider sector and to the community. I think it's something, you know, really worthwhile considering. Hopefully this isn't the last Talkaoke as well that we do at Richmix or wherever we go. But yeah, I'll be definitely curious to see what collective action we can take. But yeah. So
it could be a movement. This could be articulated as a movement. Let's get some final thoughts from people. Anybody? Anyone want a final thought? Joanne, have you got a final thought? You've said a lot. Denise, you're going to come back into this?
And we've got obviously people commenting on Facebook, but maybe
I just, sorry, I meant to say actually before, this is our chance to highlight diversity because, you know, we've been talking about diversity at Arts Council conferences for as long as I can remember, 20 years or so. And kind of, it's not worked properly. So now's our chance to get those voices heard too.
Okay. And that could potentially be part of the movement. Yeah. Will, what's been going on the Facebook chat? Anything?
Quite a lot that's been going on. Yeah, I've been talking. Sorry, my voice is going today. I need to get a drink. Yeah, quite a bit going on.
Yeah.
So I've been talking with Simon. He's been saying about how artists need to be recognised more for the work they do. And I think we've come up with a couple of slogans that might be going on a T-shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Just trying to see if there's any final thoughts. If anyone has got any final thoughts, give us a shout out and we'll get it out there.
Okay. Well, and Ellen, you've been on Instagram and you've been listening as well. Have you got any final thoughts or anything coming from Instagram?
Yeah, quite a bit going on.
I mean, at the moment, at the moment, I see some people interacting, but I think over the next few days, the discussion will continue.
Okay, so you're waiting for the fallout to hit Instagram, basically.
Exactly.
All right. Any other final thoughts, Selma? Oh, Joanne, you got you got a reprieve there, Selma. Final thought from Joanne?
I guess just the thing that I'm thinking about now is really about those collaborations, and I hope people are really bold with partnering with people of different size, different art forms, because it is a good opportunity to learn about, you know, different audiences that you're not reaching. So yeah, I'll be excited to see about that.
I mean, is it also this question of like this kind of invisible barrier that a few people have talked about, that if you're a small organization or a small theatre company, you know, is it now time to approach the big venues and the big institutions to actually say, look, this is I've got the answer to what you need? And I don't know, it's just some thoughts, final thoughts. Let me come to you then, Selma.
And then Laura.
No one's cutting into me this time. I've just been I've been listening and typing up some tweets from the Richmix account. I work at Richmix, and it's been really interesting. The things that I've been thinking most about is that blending of real life and digital.
Yeah.
How we can actually mix it up a bit more. And then Denise's point about telling the funders what we need. And this is the first starting point, because for us to tell funders what we need to know what our beneficiaries need.
Yeah.
How we can respond to what's going on with them. And then there's also just a bit of a skeptic inside me that's kind of going, well, the arts are being pushed to the bottom of the pile right now, and sometimes rightfully so because of other needs. And when will it be the chance for the arts, in terms of arts for well-being, arts for health, and for cohesion and social cohesion? When will that come to the fore? And maybe that's going to take a bit of time once crisis is over.
Okay. I mean, just while you're still on Selma, I mean, are arts kind of like, I mean, a lot of people have been saying arts are essential at this time. Should we be pushed to the bottom of the pile? Is it as important as some of the other stuff, or not quite as important as probably frontline care, but somewhere down there?
I don't think, I think it's just more about where the funding is, and where people's like individual giving as well, and that kind of where there's frontline services who are doing really important work. It feels that there's less of a pot for other kind of charities at the moment. But maybe that will grow once we're in a better state with the health service and with the virus and controlling that.
Okay, well, we can only see there hopefully will be a great new normal. A lot of people have been calling it, that we will be involved in. Will, you got your hand up?
Yeah, just a couple of final thoughts from people online. Theodore wanted to say thanks for this. Is appreciated getting a sense of the UK experience, and it is quite similar to Australia apparently.
Oh, okay.
But Simon's also said, be brave. If we don't shape the future, who will? Which I think sort of is a nice roundup. Actually,
yeah, that's a really good. That's a great final thought. Yeah, and we're in a way we are movers and shapers. So that's what we should be doing. Any final thoughts from anyone? Carola, you've said a lot. Have you got a final thought?
It's been fabulous, absolutely fascinating, I have to say. So maybe that should be a regular occurrence.
It should be, yeah. We'll talk. We can talk. We can talk for sure. And I should say, behind us over here is some other events that we're doing where we're using a similar format. So you're welcome to come to that. They've got their own, in a way it's weird because we kind of got this geographical location that we base it on, but obviously anyone around the world can join in. So it's a kind of strange duality of being super local and super global at the same time. Anyway, there are some of the times you can come in. Let's talk to Rich Mix and see if we can get another one of these happening. Chelsea, final thought?
Hiya. Yeah, I've got to go as well, but I was thinking in terms of you saying the art's being important. I know what Selma means, because there's obviously a lot of kind of, in terms of like key workers and things like that needs to be at the forefront. But for me, kind of escaping through art has been really nice. And there's something that I try and do each morning where I paint, or you can draw to like a duration of a song, and it literally takes a duration of a song, and it's so nice. It just completely it's really therapeutic and relaxes me. And it's not about what it looks like, it's more about the process, and I think that's really available for everyone. And I thought I'd just mention that before I go. Okay,
so we can all do this, and this could be a time where we can actually sort of be a bit more creative just on that personal level as well. I just noticed that Laura's got a hand up. Thank you. Bye-bye. Laura, you've put a lot into this conversation. What's your final thought?
Just thank you so much for convening the conversation and for everyone's really, really interesting thoughts. My takeaway today is there are very few and far between ideas that have never been done before. I think when I have an idea, when an organization is doing something, there's probably someone else that has been doing this and has been doing it well for a long time. So my takeaway is always doing my homework and kind of making sure that I find who else is out there and how we can collaborate. And with the excitement of now being able to do that beyond your own city and beyond your own country, and really kind of explore those connections. So thank you very much for the space and the time.
Well, thanks for your contribution, and also putting in, as you say, some links to things that are very, very similar to some of the things that people have suggested. And those people are out there. There's a whole world of people out there on the internet doing interesting stuff.
So with that in mind, I would just want to just probably give a final shout out to the upcoming events. There's one tomorrow in Upper Norwood Library. So anybody based in South London, by postcode, but actually it's open to everyone, but we'll be looking at how the very local, hyper-local community in Upper Norwood and Crystal Palace can connect, and what does that what does this community need. And for everyone in Tower Hamlets and East London or interested in communities there, we do our regular session, which we would normally do from our studio in Aberfeldy Street, but we can't. So, well, no, we can, except that we will connect to people via the digital platforms. But we are based in Aberfeldy in Poplar in Tower Hamlets, and we are connecting the communities there. There's we've had some fabulous times there in real life. Now we're taking it online. So if you are based in Tower Hamlets, if you're from one of the organizations, or these two are much more informal, not that we've been very formal here, to be honest, but in Aberfeldy, it's an evening gig. So if you do
it's more of a kind of pub chat, really.
Stronger tea, you're welcome to. But yeah, and these events, they are there to keep the community connected and keep us having these conversations about absolutely anything.
And can I just ask you, I should probably know this myself, but are we posting the chat? Are we gonna, you know, because there's been a lot of links and stuff, and there's a lot of people out there. Are we gonna put that chat somewhere, or?
Yeah, we can definitely, all the notes from today, obviously all the kind of memes are available on Twitter. If you go for Rich Mix handles on Twitter, or the People Speak Twitter, which is the People Tweet, very easy. You'll find a kind of recap of the conversations, and the same goes for Facebook. Go to Rich Mix Facebook and it's all there. But other than that, we will be sharing all the kind of notes with Rich Mix as well. So what comes next, we will see, but keep the conversation alive.
I just want to say Rick's been doing the visuals, attempting to visualize the conversation as we go, and we will put some of those visuals online as well, to look out for them, just to spur the conversation. It's a nice record as well of what we've talked about. I just want to say thanks to everyone. Thanks especially to Rich Mix for inviting us to do this. And thanks to everybody that's taken part. And thanks to our People Speak team for keeping an eye on this vast array of social media. The internet is a vast place. And so thanks for looking out for us. We will be back. So hopefully we'll see you again. Thanks very much.
Thank you. See you, everyone.